Hello and welcome to Podtoid. We are your hosts. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 416. Welcome to the show. Everyone is back again, and we have a very good one for you today. On today's show, we're going to talk about some Borderlands 3, some Man of Medan, Sayonara Wild Hearts, and one I'm particularly interested in hearing about, a little indie game called Kind Words that has been just all over my Twitter feed for the past few days, so I'm excited to hear about that. We have those games and so much more on this episode of Podtoid, but before we get started, Occams, my friend, you live somewhere near where KFC is selling that glazed donut chicken sandwich, right?
It's true.
Have you gone to try it yet?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because the glazed donut chicken thing, that's not new. I've had that before in different iterations. There were a lot of burger places in a town I used to live in that would do they branded as like a hangover cure or like fat bomb or whatever, and it was like a bacon cheeseburger but on a donut. And let me tell you what it tastes like. It tastes like a hamburger and a donut. It's not special or interesting. It's kind of gross. It's they're doing it to do it, and I get that. Why not? I'm sure we find all sorts of things. Like the first time someone drew like a Disney cartoon fucking. It's sort of that thing where like, yeah, let's just see. Let's try that out. No.
It just sounds like something you would find at a county fair, only, not completely deep fried.
Yeah, and that's where it belongs. Like I can appreciate like the stick of deep fried butter. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like it's the same way you're like, the one and only time you ever eat someone's asshole out is at like the Gathering of the Juggalos or Burning Man. Like it's that's the context. Like, okay, I get it. When in Rome.
Is that the one and only time?
Wow,
man.
You tell me. But it's one of those things where it's like, I get it there, but otherwise, no.
I've had like fried chicken on waffles before.
Oh, that's classic.
Right, and I can only assume it's like comparable to that. I don't know how comparable that is to eating someone's ass out because I've not done that before. But like, I quite like fried chicken on waffles, so I'll probably like chicken in donuts, and I'll probably like eating someone's ass out as well.
Wow,
what a journey we just took together.
Hey, as long as it's got maple syrup on it, anything's good for me. So
seriously,
a path of self-discovery to eating ass.
Sounds like a ride to Infection Town.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be the perfect Podtoid like title for this episode if YouTube wasn't the way YouTube is. So,
a roadmap to eating ass.
Well,
I think we just found our title for the Destructoid main page, at least.
Hell yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I like visit Infection Town frequently. I think it might be like I've got like frequent flyer miles to that place.
Shit. Well, that was just a wonderful journey we took at the top of the show, and I'm glad to have shared it with all of you. Before we get talking about games, we do have a story to talk about, and it's another one of those classic Podtoid show openers. For this one, we're going to go to Gippsland, Victoria, Australia. I don't know why I had to say that slow. Where firefighters had to do battle with a particularly troublesome blaze. The fire broke out at 3 a.m. at the Yarram Herd Services building, which, as you may not know, is a cattle breeding facility. It's where they breed cattle. And in this building, there are many, many cylinders just filled to the brim with bull semen for farmers to use on impregnating their cows. And it turns out that when they're on fire, the semen in those cylinders starts to expand quickly, creating pressure, popping off the lids of the cylinders, and then sending, as the article puts it, flying projectiles from the building, forcing the firefighters to go into defensive mode. Flaming Hot Cum is what I'm talking about here. And by the way, Flaming Hot Cum is the name of my Pansy Division cover band. It's
the name of my limited edition burger.
It took firefighters 2 hours to completely extinguish the blaze. In the end, 100. Oh God, I'm going to butcher this. I don't know why it's so easy. 100 Cryogenic. Ah, God, I'm dumb.
Cryo.
Cryogenic. Thank you. Cryogenic cylinders of cattle cum was lost. It can only be described as one massive load that's gone. The fire is under investigation. Dodging semen does not seem like something firefighters would train for, right?
I mean, probably in certain videos on Pornhub, maybe. But well, okay, let me ask you this: did the semen was it like shards since it's cryogenically it was frozen, or did it melt and just kind of come out as like it's like that scene? Was it Riggs or whatever or Miggs in fucking The Silence of the Lambs just chucking it at Jodie Foster's face?
That is a good question. It does not specify.
Yeah.
Because this is Newsweek and they're terrible. But
imagine though the nightmare scenario of like flaming liquid cum burning you and getting like a skin graft, get like cum basically taken off your fucking skin.
We call that Kentucky napalm.
Anything sticky is worse if you get burnt with it because it just like sticks and you can't rinse it off. So that would be one of the worst things to get burnt by.
Yeah, I would agree.
And if all these shards had been frozen, can you imagine if there'd been like a massacre of people just like impaled?
That's what I'm thinking. Like it's just like shrapnel bombs going off and just people getting like flechette rounds, just their flesh melting away and just bone exposed by fucking frozen jizz.
Like when an icicle drops off the top of a building and impales someone, except it's not an icicle, it's a shard of cum.
Anyone else just like a little horny? Just a speck? No? Okay.
No.
Just checking.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, guess it's just me and my cat here.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to talking about games, and we're actually going to start with a little bit on game music. Dan, you've been expanding your vinyl collection recently, right?
Yeah, that's right. I have been now collecting video game soundtracks on vinyl. As honestly, I sort of have all the specific bands and albums that I really like on vinyl, so now I'd rather just kind of get weird niche things, and that includes video game soundtracks. So this past week, I picked up Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill 2. Both of them were released by Mondo Tees. And starting off with Metal Gear Solid, the artwork is incredible. Someone by the name of Randy Ortez drew all this stuff. Don't know who he is, but hey, it looks awesome. It looks dope. You have Snake right on the cover with a bunch of snakes thrown around his head and everything. It's pretty cool. You got some Metal Gear Rex artwork in there, Sniper Wolf, all kinds of stuff. It's really neat stuff. And the vinyl itself is like a dark, like transparent green. It looks a lot cooler on the website in terms of the images, but when you actually get it and you're in like just a normal lit room, it just looks like a black LP.
Okay.
Until you're actually like putting it directly in the sunlight. But as for the actual soundtrack itself, I like it. You know, it has all the hits. You know, Metal Gear Solid, the theme itself, the start screen, the alert music. But there is still a part of me that's kind of waiting for 2 or 3 because the audio quality on this, if you're an audiophile, you're not going to be really jazzed about this one. It's tinny in spots. Like it's like a direct thing from the PlayStation 1 classic. So it's not going to be, I would say, the best audio quality. Like even some tunes, I think like they almost sound mono at times. Ooh. So I'm not really crazy about that. But Silent Hill 2 though, once again, great artwork. Somebody by the name of Sarah Deck. Shouts out Sarah Deck. Don't know who she is, but hey, great artwork. And this one has like kind of a translucent, foggy kind of vinyl color scheme. I dig that. And the overall audio quality, hell of a lot better. Once we entered like the realm of the PlayStation 2 and we'd had like DVD-sized discs and you put actual soundtracks on there with a decent enough audio quality and no compression, sounds great. You got all the hits on there as well. Theme of Allura, the white noise stuff. But if I have to name a favorite, it's probably side B, track 9, Heaven's Night. Any Silent Hill 2 fans out there, they'll know what I'm talking about. That is like one of the most calming songs ever. It's almost kind of like similar to the safe rooms in Resident Evil. So that same vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love both these soundtracks. As for Metal Gear Solid, I'm just hoping they do one for 2 or 3 because those are superior.
That's interesting what you say about the Metal Gear Solid soundtrack sounding a bit tinny, because I assume as like someone who's into vinyl and stuff, a lot of people who buy vinyl have really in-depth, high-quality, expensive setups. So you'd think that most vinyl that's produced is expected to be played by people who are really listening for like the nuances. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but to be fair, a lot of new vinyl releases are basically just like, hey, yeah, we kind of just ripped a CD from like 99 and slapped it on a vinyl.
Is it more just is it like a bit more performative? Is a lot of modern vinyl of, say, pop music or whatever, is a lot of it just we stamped the soundtrack onto some plastic, buy it because it's vinyl? Is it kind of like that? Basically,
you're buying it for the collector's sake and for the art inside, and I'd say that very much applies to the Metal Gear Solid set. Really cool art, really cool looking LPs, dark green, translucent, all that stuff. But for the actual audio quality, it's pretty whatever, honestly.
Now, I just want to say I've also purchased albums from Mondo before. I have the limited edition Who Framed Roger Rabbit soundtrack on vinyl. It is exceptional. The sound on it is absolutely, it has depth. It is the exact type of sound you expect to come off of a record and out of your record player. So, it like, to me, it definitely sounds like a shame that they use the Metal Gear soundtrack straight from the PlayStation version. I'm not sure if the GameCube Twin Snakes remake would have been better because they had a lot of condensing on those tiny little GameCube discs. But in terms of Mondo, I just want to say they do some exceptional work. Just I guess is based off whatever they have access to.
I think it was a matter issue. Yeah, I think it was also like maybe a matter of like authenticity and stuff like that as well. Is when you are listening to some of those level themes, it sends you back.
Yeah,
I have to say that as somebody who's been doing a lot of stuff with Mondo for a number of years now, buying things. You mentioned artist Randy Ortiz. He made my hands down favorite Thing poster ever, and I was lucky enough to get a copy of it when it first came out. He's a fucking amazing artist, and he does an art collective called The Vacuum, and I think it's spelled like VAC, like VVM. It's a weird spelling, but he does it with a couple people. That's well worth checking out. He does fantastic art. I don't know Sarah Beck, but I'll have to look her up. Deck, excuse me. I'll have to look her up. But Randy does top notch work.
Good to know. It's beautiful art in here, so
yeah,
makes sense.
In preparing for this, I dug out like the only video game vinyl I've got, which is like the soundtrack to Persona 4 Arena. And just right now, I wanted to remind myself what color the disc was because I remember it was a colored vinyl, and it's yellow. But even more interestingly, when I tipped the sleeve upside down, like a whole pack of antidepressants fell out of it. So make of that what you will.
Oh, that sounds like how people kept their vinyl in the 70s. Nice.
Keeping it real.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Occam's. You have finally started playing some Borderlands 3. How have you been enjoying it?
Yeah, it's fun. I'm playing as Flack, the Beastmaster. And it's a good time. I have my little skag, runs around, does skag stuff. I shoot things. It's good. And I was when I first started playing, I was like looking at the skill trees and like how to build the big crit damage, blah blah blah. And I was realized like, fuck it, just have fun. Just put your points in the things you want to put them in. Go shoot stuff. So I listened to the game a little bit. Like sometimes I have my headphones on. Sometimes I pause it and just listen to a podcast because I don't really care about the story. Come to realize the Calypso twins aren't particularly interesting. They feel like a fine villain for the Borderlands universe, but not like the way Handsome Jack was sort of charismatic and kind of a psychopath and just kind of awful, but fun and engaging. These just feel like a fill in the blank villain. So I don't really care what's happening in the story.
They disappear for a while too. Solid 10 hours. They're just kind of not there.
Yeah, I'm not super far into the game. I spent a lot of time on that first world just wandering, shooting stuff, doing what I do in Borderlands. But they're fine when they show up. I don't really care. But it's very fun, I mean, they looter, shooter, all the different kinds of guns. I had a gun that when you reload it, you throw the first copy of the gun out and it grows legs and runs around.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I wanted. So it's a good time. Yeah, but it's very enjoyable for what it is. I'm looking forward to playing this for the next few years, just randomly picking it up every time some little free update gets released, and that Halloween thing's happening either soon or now or something like that. I'm gonna do that, and yeah, so it's a good time.
I worked on the video review for it, and I captured footage for that. And you don't actually see it in the video, but it's one of the very few games, if ever, I don't think I've ever done this, where I went into the audio options and turned down the dialogue audio, like almost down to nothing, because the jokes aren't great. They, man, it's like humor from like a couple of years ago, plus just like a lot of like sex jokes from somebody that clearly hasn't had sex. It's just fuck.
Occam's, I always consider you someone who like myself, you're just really into kind of dry humor, like very much a British kind of sense of humor, if you know what I mean. But what do you think of the humor in Borderlands? Because the one thing that has cropped up in so many reviews, it seems like such a hot button topic, is to talk about how the game's just not funny, but trying really hard to be funny.
I think it's one of those things where some people are going to find it really funny. I think it's that kind of, it's hard to put it without sounding like an asshole, but like the YouTube, Instagram generation. And I say that as somebody who is very much not a part of that. And it shows, but I think like there's one bit where when the Calypso twins are introduced, I think the brother twin like dabbed, like when they did like the freeze frame on the character. And it's like, that's like that sort of thing where I could see people thinking like, oh, this is funny or at least relevant. To me, I see like, okay, well, it appeals to these kinds of people for their sense of humor. And it's yeah, I know it sounds bad. It's like, it's just not quite my cup of tea, as it were. But I mean, it's fine for what it is. It's not particularly funny, but it also has the benefit of having 3 games plus, if you want to, well, I guess 3 games if you count the Tales from the Borderlands. Like, I like some of the people. I like seeing Mad Moxie. I like Ellie. These different folks that show up and like, oh yeah, I have a history with them. So it's right. I can forgive the jokes when they don't land because I'm invested in the world a little bit, or at least seeing these characters continue their journey, even if I don't particularly care about, the big strife that's going on now. Just the little moments of talking to them is fine. But the humor's okay. It's not, I look at it and go, yes, that was a joke. And it wasn't really funny to me, but that doesn't mean it's bad or good. Except the dabbing thing, I don't get that at all. That's okay. But yeah, the guns are great, and I'm in it. Like, I'm gonna buy the Borderlands 3 art book because I just want to see all the different designs they do for the guns, like that visual Bible for the different companies when they all have their different styles. I love that shit. So.
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to me. I've been playing a few games this week with the launch of Apple Arcade. Real quick, I just want to touch on Link's Awakening. I've got to the first dungeon in that game, and I've been able to experience, just a little bit of what Nintendo has done here. It's a very, very beautiful remake. It is just gorgeous on my big screen. But I'm sure if you've read any of the reviews or you've heard anything about it, people have talked about the frame rate. And I didn't know if this was just like, like in Legend of Zelda Wind Waker had frame rate issues, but it was very sparingly. Sometimes when you approach an island or when you were in one of the middle of those whirlwind storms that one of the squids would pop out of the ocean, in those moments, the frame rate would slow down, wouldn't ruin the experience whatsoever. What I didn't understand by reading the reviews of the game before I played this was how consistent the frame rate issue is, because it seems like it's always dipping below, the max of 30 frames per second. It honestly feels like this game maybe runs at 20 to 25 more than it does 30. And that's not necessarily a deal breaker, but goddamn, for a game this gorgeous, like you can absolutely see the difference when something, zooms in smoothly at 30 frames per second versus when it zooms in at like 20 frames per second. It absolutely tarnishes what is just one of the most gorgeous games I have ever seen. But I'm still making my way through it. I love Link's Awakening. I have it on my 3DS for the Color DX version that they released. It's one of my favorite games of all time. The only other complaint I have about it is Link's movement is limited to 8 directions, like I believe like in the original game. I'd have to go back and check it again. But you cannot use the directional pad on the Pro controller. You have to use the thumbstick, and like it's a personal thing, but I hate it. I hate that so much. I hate it. I hate it. If he had full 360-degree movement, I would not be an issue for me. But because it's limited to 8 and because I can't use that directional pad, it drives me up a fucking wall. And I'm glad I didn't review it because I would just harp on that for 19 paragraphs. On the brighter side, Apple Arcade launched, and it is really, really good. This is the new streaming service from Apple. Well, not streaming service, game service from Apple that is $4.99 a month. It launched with like 80 or 100 games. I'm not entirely sure how many it launched all at once. A lot of them high quality. Some of them shit. I reviewed Frogger in Toy Town, which I routinely called Frogger in Toyland right up until I actually published the thing. And it's okay. It's not that good. But I just got done writing my review, and it should be up before this podcast airs, for Sayonara Wild Hearts. This is the new music game from Simogo. It is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful from beginning to end. They bill it as a pop album video game, and that is the perfect description of this, because there are 23 tracks and or levels, depending on what you want to call them, in this game, and it is an absolute audio visual experience. You know, have you ever gone to like a concert where they have the person singing on stage, but behind them is a giant video screen, and it's like just putting up some graphics? Have you guys, anyone here, have been to anything like that?
Yep.
Yeah. I forgot the name of the band, so.
Now imagine if you could play that. Like if you could play what's on that video screen. That is kind of what this is. It is a very dream-like experience. You play as this woman who kind of finds her alter ego, known as the Fool, who must chase down these wild hearts to kind of restore balance to the universe. And it's all narrated by Queen Latifah, which seems like a weird get, but she is so good at it.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
The gameplay is it's a variety. There's a lot of different things that you'll do in this game. There are QuickTime events. Most of it is on rails, though, as you kind of just race at 200 miles per hour down these long highways and weird geometrical shapes, collecting all these points and trying to get high scores for each song. And it's such a beautiful experience. And the one thing that I was disappointed with it in my review, and I'll talk about it now, is that this thing is presented as a pop album video game, or that's what it's sold as. But how it's presented is as a collection of singles. So like the first time you go through this game, and it takes maybe an hour to beat the game because it is literally the length of an album. The first time you go through it, you play a level, and then you go back out to the menu, and then you select the next level, and then you go into it, and then you come out of it, select the next level, et cetera, et cetera. You do that for the entirety of the game. After you do it, after you beat the game, you unlock a mode called Album Arcade, which lets you play through the entire game without interruption. This is such a fucking better way to experience the game. This should have been the primary mode. Like, right. The developers should have sat everyone down, put a little warning screen at the beginning, like, hey, we're not going to let you stop playing until you beat this game. It's only an hour long, but trust me, this is how you need to experience Sayonara Wild Hearts, because it is on a plane of its own. In the album arcade mode, I played through that twice because I just lose myself in the experience. It is unquestionably the best way to play this game, and it pains me that the developers didn't see that, and I know this is maybe a terrible way to put it, but force that upon players to really get them to experience the album as a whole rather than as a collection of singles.
Maybe that there's always the possibility that they did, or that's what they really, really wanted to do, but there's something outside of their
I'm thinking the same
in a
thing.
circle that's like, no, you have to make this like a game or whatever.
That said, they should have had like both those options available from the get-go. There should have just been like the standard mode and this mode that's like consistently 1 hour long or whatever. Just play this one. I don't know why they made that like an unlocked thing where you have to first beat the game the normal way with all the interruptions to get that mode.
I remember when the Beatles Rock Band came out. I know you're a huge fan of that game, CJ.
Yep.
I basically, me and my friend, he bought the game because he likes the Beatles, and we just like we sat down with the instrument and we just played through the whole game, like every track and like the timeline of the career that it takes you on in this like one setting from beginning to end. And there's this weird thing where it's almost like the game kind of doesn't work unless you play it that way. Like if you try just dipping in and out of it, it doesn't feel the same. But if you commit like 3 hours or however long it takes to like just going all the way through it in chronological order, the experience is like 10 times better. And I guess it's the same kind of thing here, right?
Yes. And the music is so good. I've seen a lot of people throw around Carly Rae Jepsen online when talking about it, and it very much does sound like it has influences from her Emotion album, which is one of the best pop albums of the last 10 years. But really, if you listen to indie pop, you go really indie, find some YouTube channels where they only get like 90,000 hits on a song. Like that is the wheelhouse for this game. It is 80s dance pop reborn, and I love it. They just announced they're doing a vinyl of it, and yeah, I'm going to be buying it. It's $40 from, I think it's I Am 8-Bit who was doing this one. I love the boutique industry that we're in now because you get vinyl from all these small little
That's great.
manufacturers. You get the boutique game publishers. You get anything can get a physical release now on Switch. This is a great time to be a fan. I guess who has money because this soundtrack here is it may be my favorite album of the year. That's just how much I love it.
That's awesome.
All right, we're going to end things right now with Charlotte. Charlotte, you've been playing 2 games that I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on. Let's go ahead and start with Man of Medan.
Yep. So basically, I've been trying to get on with my ongoing games that I'm trying to finish, but I've taken the time to play 2 new things just as like one-off little things during my week. So Man of Medan I played last night as an alternative to a movie night on a Saturday night. And what's really cool about it is there is an actual movie mode where movie night mode where you can have one controller and you pass it between up to 5 people and you each assign the characters between you, and then you can play it sort of co-op. Like some people do certain characters and other people do different characters. Mm-hmm. And it worked really well. The game in general was really enjoyable. So we'd kind of heard that it wasn't as good as Until Dawn. Like me and my boyfriend are both big Until Dawn fans. I would say it's kind of hard to compare. And I had a really good time with it. And there's definitely replay value in it because we're definitely going to go back. Like we sort of did a good sort of run through where we picked the more harmonious choices. And we're definitely going to try and we managed to, okay, spoiler alert, we managed to get everybody to survive. Like it's a lot easier than in Until Dawn to get everybody to survive. It was, we messed up quite a few times and still everybody lived. Mm-hmm. But we're definitely going to now do a run where everybody dies.
So with Until Dawn, I kind of had to dodge that game because as far as from what I'm aware, it's quite jump scare heavy, and see my tablets falling out of my record case earlier. Like, I don't really kind of have the what's the term I'm looking for?
Fortitude.
Yeah, well, let's call it that. I don't know. It's more like nerves. It's more like a nerve. Yeah, I'm kind of a jumpy person. So, but my point is just basically, how are you with that kind of horror? How are you with jump scares and stuff? Do you have like a massive reaction to it, or are you just like, when something happens, or what?
I'd say there are quite a few jump scares in Man of Medan. Probably not as many as Until Dawn, but I don't know if that's just because Man of Medan is a bit shorter. So my problem I had with the game a little bit is that if you're playing movie mode, and by extension, if you're playing it on your own, because of the characters that we picked, because what you can sort of spread them out however you want, as long as everybody takes all of the characters. I ended up playing for a very long time before I passed over the controller. And in sections where it was because it would go from character to character and the characters happened to be ones that I'd picked, it just felt a bit too much. There wasn't really suspense, then release, suspense, then release
Right.
towards the end of the game. It was just all out jump scares all the time, which kind of, I think that's okay if you're playing with 5 people and you're passing the controller all the time, but I felt like I was holding the controller for too long and I was like kind of relieved when I passed it on. So maybe the pacing was a little bit off, but overall I had a really good time.
I guess when you're playing in like that multiplayer mode as well, because there's a group of you, some people might be chatting, or people, when it's not their turn, might be distracted. And I guess that kind of breaks the immersion a little bit of like the fear.
Yeah. I mean, we were cracking jokes the entire time because
Right.
it's very B-movie-esque. But
Right.
and also I swear I missed a load of QTEs at the beginning, and I am usually pretty good with QTEs, but I think the passing and chatting between you sort of makes you more distracted. And then there was a couple of them that I missed because I was talking about some plot point. So
Did anybody get killed because you missed them? Did you like?
no, everybody
Oh yeah, you
lived.
said everyone made it. Yeah.
There was a section. I'm not going to go into it too much because it's spoilers. But there's a section where you have to be really, really careful about your choices, and like the game telegraphs what you're supposed to do. But if you pick wrong, you can really mess up and kill people. And my boyfriend was like, it was like you had about 10 seconds to make the decision, and I could see him like thinking really fast, oh God, what do I do? And then he came to the right decision and we just high-fived afterwards, and it was a really good feeling.
And now for the complete opposite end of the gaming spectrum, tell us about Kind Words.
Yeah, I decided to buy this. So on Monday, I had a wisdom tooth out, and it really did not go very well. I was very upset afterwards. I'm still struggling with it. So I decided to sort of unleash some of my upset through Kind Words because everybody was talking about it, and it seemed like a good forum to get some more of that stuff out. I mean, people on Twitter are sick of me talking about it, but I thought I'd say a bit more on there as well. It's really, really nice. And I agree with what people have been saying, that user reporting seems to have worked. I've not come across any nastiness so far. So you can write letters saying, just basically releasing your worries into the ether, and then you get replies after. You have to wait maybe half a day, but then you get a flurry of replies, and they've always been really nice. And by doing that, you gain stickers. So there's sort of like an incentive to sort of respond to people's requests for advice, and also to unleash your own worries. It's one of those things, though. They're very, very good about putting up, if you need professional help, go somewhere else. Don't go here. You can't fault them on that. But you do have to be in the right mindset to play it. Like, if you're feeling at all like any slightly off advice could just throw you off in another direction and really upset you, then maybe this is not the right time to play the game. And also, if you're feeling like you might be too tempted to sort of overburden yourself with other people's problems, then it's not the right game for you. But if you're feeling in the right mindset to give other people advice and also to hear objective advice about your problems, then it's really good. It's really heartwarming, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've kind of had a break from it for the past few days because I've not really felt like going into it. But it's nice to dip in and out, and it's really nice when you come across somebody who's had the same problems as you had 5 years ago, and you can then advise. It's like advising your past self.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very nice. I would recommend. And it's pretty, if you want to just give it a try, it's pretty cheap as well. So
It just sounds absolutely pleasant.
yes, it's a warm bath of a game.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games, but we still have some headlines to cover. It is time for the news. And what a busy fucking week this was. We had the launch of Link's Awakening, Apple Arcade absolutely blew up, Gears 5 became, I think, the most played game on Xbox Games Pass. There's just so much we could talk about this week, but we're going to focus on these 3 stories. The first of which is all about Sony. This week, Sony confirmed the next air date for its State of Play presentation. Much like Nintendo Directs and Inside Xbox, State of Play gives Sony a chance to highlight its upcoming projects outside of the convention arena. The State of Play will air on Tuesday, the 24th, and is expected to run approximately 20 minutes. Now, this state of play is going to have supposedly will have a new format compared to ones of the past, and I know that past ones haven't been super exciting, but hopefully they can turn that around here. The biggest bit of information that we know coming out of this show is that there's going to be new details on The Last of Us 2. If you've been watching Twitter, you've no doubt seen the many images popping across accounts related to the game, including one of a knife, of an axe, and of a giraffe.
And a hammer.
A hammer, yeah, there's been a hammer one. More than likely, Sony is going to use the event to promote the launch date of the PS4 exclusive. However, that may have already leaked. Reports popped up over the weekend of a February 28th, 2020 launch date. That kind of fits in with what people have heard before, so it's not entirely out of the question. Charlotte, did you ever get around to beating the first one?
Nope.
Nope.
I will. It's on my list.
Well, you have a few months, so,
I can't help how sensitive I am. I mean, Man of Medan was fine, and that's like really scary, but where you're actually in full control, I just can't handle it.
As for the state of play stuff, I do hope they do more of The Last of Us 2. And if they have like a physical event, I'm kind of hoping that they pull off some of the E3 shenanigans they've been doing in the previous years, except for this year. Like having some hanging people from the ceiling or a dude on a flute or something. The cringy bad parts, what I'm kind of looking forward to if they have some sort of on-stage presence.
Judging from the reaction of the E3 or was it E3? Wherever they showed off the lesbian kiss the first time, that's all the trailer needs to be. It just needs to be one long makeout session between, what's her name, Ellie and her girlfriend? I think it's Ellie.
Yeah, it's just an extended cut of that where they just go to the room. It gets real weird and real R-rated all of a sudden.
Hell yeah.
I wasn't going with a pornographic thing. It's just rubbing it in all the people who are like, oh, you can't have that. I don't. Why you got to force that on us? Really force it on them.
Gamers, man. What do you do?
I mean, there was an entire DLC devoted to like this topic, so I don't understand why anybody would be upset by it in the second one. Stupid.
Oh, people get upset by the dumbest things all the time.
That said, I am curious if they will like maybe end on a note, maybe just like a flash that just says PS5 or something, because the way they came about, like soft announcing that thing still blows my mind. Just like a random article out of nowhere being like, yeah, we got to see Spider-Man on new hardware and see load screens. What? It was just so out of the blue. So I'm curious after all that stuff, after showing off Spider-Man on supposed next-gen hardware, if they're going to maybe touch on that a little bit. Maybe just be like, here's a date, find out more then, or something.
They've come out and said that there's absolutely nothing PS5 related coming in this thing, but if they show any Last of Us 2, I'd like to see some gameplay, but show me some gameplay that doesn't look like nobody was actually controlling it. You know what I mean? Show me some gameplay where I can remotely believe that I'm not just watching a cutscene that has been formed to look like it's gameplay.
Yeah,
that's all that E3 video looked like, and I found it really obnoxious how clearly choreographed, like every movement in that quote unquote gameplay video was.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that stuff either. And I remember Red Dead Redemption 2 did that all the way up until launch. They didn't show like any actual fucking gameplay, no HUDs, nothing, barely. It was just straight up like really controlled stuff or cutscenes. And I feel like a lot of people went into Red Dead Redemption 2 with not like any idea really what to expect in terms of actual gameplay. Maybe like the sludge stuff really turned them off then from the get-go. So I'm hoping maybe they show a HUD, they show some actual, like as you said, someone playing it, but we'll have to wait and see.
Like even though that was like gameplay footage, the movement of every single character, where they stood, where they walked, when they attacked to the angles they came from, even though we saw her like picking things up and it was like there's the pickup icon and there's the bag and everything, every single piece of character movement looked like it was completely path found beforehand. Nothing looked like it was live, free form gameplay.
And they did that last time as well for the original Last of Us. Like I distinctly remember those E3 trailers and people questioning if they were bullshots or not.
Our second story has to do with Bandai Namco. This week it was discovered the publisher has trademarked a few names for its classic games under the Encore banner. This is the same banner that was used for the Katamari Damacy release in Japan, where we got it as Reroll. Some of the trademarks include Klonoa Encore, Mr. Driller Encore, and Splatterhouse Encore.
Hell yeah.
It is unclear right now if these are going to be full-scale remakes like what Activision did with Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, or if they're going to be simple re-releases with HD up-res graphics. I will say Klonoa it was completely remade about a decade ago for the Nintendo Wii. And if Bandai Namco just ported that version to Switch, I would buy it in a fucking heartbeat. I love that game so much, and that is a great remake of it. Occams, you've already answered my question, but you're a fan of the grotesque. How much would you like to enjoy Splatterhouse Encore?
It is one of my favorite weirdo hidden gem series ever. I remember playing it as a kid and being blown away because there are parts where you're like, "Oh shit, you're fighting like dead babies and stuff," and I was pretty excited. No, it's a great, just a fucking weirdo series. I absolutely wanted to come back. I wish that game they'd done on 360 a number of years ago had been a little bit better. I think that could have maybe kickstarted something and gotten a sort of a gorier, more horror themed version of Darksiders before Darksiders was Darksiders. But I'm very excited. I'm happy.
It's at the point where I'd kind of just be pleased if they just did a really good kind of set that had Splatterhouse 1, 2, and 3 on it, in their different ports and guises, and then put that 2010 game in there as well, and put Wanpaku Graffiti, which is like the cute chibi NES game, stick that in there as well. You need to put that in there because it's the only video game ever made that's got a reference to the burning in it. So like that's why it's one of the greatest video games of all time. But even if they just were like, here's a little Splatterhouse museum and it had all these games in it, and then like an art gallery and some interviews and stuff like that, that'd be a neat little package, I think.
Oh yeah, I'd buy that day one. If they made a physical of that, I'd be so happy.
All right, finally, we're going to wrap up with some Pokemon news. Game Freak pulled back the curtain on one of the newest Pocket Monsters to join the franchise, and quite frankly, it is spectacular. After 2 decades of just being a duck with a leak, Farfetch'd is finally getting to evolve into the suave, brave Sirfetch'd. This was actually part of an info leak a few weeks ago, and I love the design of this Pokemon. I am a little bit upset that it is exclusive to Pokemon Sword because I pre-ordered Shield. Charlotte, what are your thoughts on this bird?
You know that Lady Gaga sort of meme where she's calling something magnificent, iconic, all of these descriptive words? That. It's been an amazing week for avian stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. What's really good is I was talking to my boyfriend who's German about this, and all Pokemon, well, most Pokemon have different names in German, and the German name for Sirfetch'd is Lauxalot, like Lancelot, but Lauch means, I think it means leak. Yeah, I think it's leak. Sometimes the German names for Pokemon are better.
That's really good. That's a better name.
Yeah. Yeah, Snorlax is Relaxo in German, which is brilliant. I always call it Relaxo now.
If I have any issues, it's a fighting type. I don't get that. It should have been a flying grass type, but that's just my spicy take.
And it's an absolute unit too.
Yeah.
My issue is that it's like 2'5" and weighs 250 pounds.
Hey man, that's a big leak. It's not even like a sword and shield; it's like a spear and shield.
The math on that is upsetting. I just like you go to kick it and you shatter your foot.
It's something.
That is one delicious Christmas goose. That can feed an entire town right there. 200 pounds of meat.
I always wonder, do people eat Pokemon in the Pokemon universe?
Yeah.
No.
And Magikarp? Could you cook up a Magikarp? Is what I'm getting at.
There's the teapot Pokemon that they keep telling you to drink their tea. If people are drinking Pokemon, they're clearly eating Pokemon as well. Why do you think they made cow Pokemon so they can have Pokeburgers?
This is upsetting me. Can we move on?
Oh, and by the way, there are plant Pokemon, so vegetarians eat Pokemon as well. Just want to throw that out there.
Freshly cut Weeping Bell,
All right, but this kind of begs the question, though. Like, would Meowth talk dirty if you were fucking him?
Okay, so we went into a whole other area of topic that I don't want to go into anymore.
I don't like it.
Meowth taught some shit, but I don't know what he would say if you put a dick in him, but
I don't know how to follow that. I honestly don't. Fuck. Let's just go ahead and wrap this up. We don't have a question of the week this week.
We do have a question of the week. I have a question of the week.
Oh, you do?
Oh, boy.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, shit. I didn't prepare it. Go ahead. What is the question of the week?
The question of the week is, if I died, would you remember me? And I'll tell you why. Because I was playing Mortal Kombat last night.
Oh.
I came up against this really fucking toxic player. And I didn't have a mic connected, but they did. And I could hear them through the TV. And I'm really gutted because I checked the replay back and it didn't record his mic audio. Some games do and some games don't, and Mortal Kombat doesn't. But he spent the whole match, as I was kicking his ass, like berating me and making all sorts of noises and trashing this and trashing that. And then it was like a set and I beat him 2-0. And he was just talking all the way through it. And then when I beat him, he said, I don't know why you think you're something fucking special. This fucking victory doesn't mean anything. And then he said, when you fucking die, nobody you know is going to remember you. And that, if proof be need be, is a really good window into the Mortal Kombat Online universe.
I would have sent him a
That
message.
is awful.
Just saying,
I'm so sorry, Chris.
I was kind of cool with it because the best revenge is always conquest. That's like, you know what I mean? So the fact that like I beat him, it's like, it doesn't, you can say what you fucking want. Like, I beat you and that's what you're hot about. But like, to think that someone would go that deep, it's one thing to be like, oh, your mum this or whatever. But he was just like, when you die in real life, no one's going to know who you are. Even though you think you're big because you've beaten me at this game, it doesn't mean anything. And when you're dead, you're nothing and no one's going to remember you. And I was just thinking about it just on the sense of like, who hurt you? Like, you know what I mean?
he probably has these same thoughts. But I would have just sent him a text message or whatever, like an in-game message thing, just saying you're pretty upset, and that's all it would have been.
The funny thing is, I did actually go to check out his profile, and obviously it's like this is someone who does this a lot because when you go to the person's profile, his profile message is a message for people who've come to look at his profile. Because I'm not going to repeat what he said because it was like homophobic. But like his profile message was literally kind of just like a message for people who he knows are going to be looking at his profile after he's fought them, if you know what I mean. So he's got a pre-prepared written reply for anyone who goes to look at his profile page. But that was my question of the week. I'd like to think that I will be remembered, if only for my inability to finish this sentence because I haven't thought of a punchline.
I gotta say, it's strange that he would go out of his way to say that no one would remember you because you've clearly bought some real estate in his mind. Like, to go so far as to say that, no. Clearly, he's going to remember you as the guy who kicked his ass.
Sad person.
Yeah. I did buy real estate off that guy we talked about last week, so but off the back of that story we chatted about, I was like, oh, that guy sounds like he knows how to sell a house. And I went and bought a condo off him. That's a condo.
Oh, shit. In-game chat is starting to become the bane of my existence. Not because of strangers who are berating me or partners in Overwatch, but because I've started playing Apex Legend with my nephew. And like, he doesn't swear or have, heated gaming moments, but like we played on Friday and Saturday, and the crux of our conversation was just him asking me if I have heard of a rapper he listens to, and then going off that, letting me know if I should listen to their music or not. Hey, do you like Lil Pump? No. Oh yeah, no, I don't like Lil Pump either. He's the worst. Hey, do you like Boogie with a Hoodie? Sure. Oh yeah, he's really good. You should listen to this song. Hey, did you like Extension? No. Oh yeah, no, he was okay. Hey, do you like? And it's just, and it was that for 2 days, and we repeated artists. Like, fucking hell, this is my life now.
I've been there.
To give you an idea of how like off fucking touch I am, I don't know whether all those names you said were like ones you were making up or real people.
Well, Boogie with the Hoodie sounds like a rap name that a white person would make up to make fun of black people. Like, honestly. But no, that is a real rapper's name. Yeah, no, it can be excruciating at times because it is just nonstop talking through it about all these rappers. Because apparently he's listening to them on, I don't know, Spotify or something that I can't hear. And so just every one of them that comes up, he has to know if I like him or not. Because his parents listen to country, so obviously, they have zero reference on his music taste. So
yeah, that's basically the exact same scenario with my cousin. She really likes a lot of rap, including like Bad Baby, and her parents listen to fucking country. And on the off chance, she found out I like a lot of modern rap. And oh boy, do I get like random messages all the time now about modern rap.
Now, I got to ask you, did your cousins, or you said your cousin, right?
Yeah.
Did their parents used to listen to like rap music or rock music? Or
no, they listen to like country, like new country, like
always. They've always been
garbage
listening to
fucking
country.
music. Yeah.
Okay, because the only thing I found really funny about it is that like his dad listens to country now, but he is so much like when his dad was his age, he was listening to every fucking rap artist there was. My mom had to take him to a rap concert. That's how much he was into rap, and how loving our mother was to take him to a rap concert. She got to go with him to a rap concert, and then my first concert, she had to take me to see Britney Spears. So there was a clearly big difference between how they raised their kids. But yeah, and so it's funny to see that my nephew is exactly like my brother, and my brother has now become my dad because that's all my dad listens to as well. And this has been an exciting look inside of CJ's life.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, do we have a community shout out this week?
We do. It's not a specific person, but just for everyone in the community who shares their art, no matter what it is. If it's something you create physically, like a painting or a drawing, if you create music or even share your Twitch stream or whatever, it's all art to me, baby. And I want to just give a shout out to everybody who puts himself out there, makes himself vulnerable by being creative and sharing that expression with us all. You're really awesome, and thank you for that. So shout out to the artists.
Absolutely. All right, that is it, folks. On behalf of Chris, Dan, Charlotte, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening to Podtoid, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.
Bad Baby has a video game, by the way.
Nope. No, she doesn't.
It's called Ride or Die.
Oh.
Is it,
Yeah.
Is it about her trying not to get HPV?